This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Every year I do a video at the start of the week of when the Browns played their first regular season game of the season. And it's usually one of my favorite videos to make. And that's because it's a time of the year where things slow down, not a ton, but just a bit, just enough for me to kind of look around and realize what it is that I get to do. I get to talk to thousands of Browns fans every day, sometimes 3 times a day, about the Browns. I get to talk about the Browns for a living. And it is something that I am grateful for and hope goes on for a very long time. And I want to thank everybody for making this a possibility. It's truly amazing. Don't know where my life would be if I weren't able to do this for a living. And that being said, I think this is a huge week for the Cleveland Browns. Not because this game versus the Cowboys will determine the fate of the rest of the year or will really change anything as far as this season outlook. Like in the long-term look, this game versus the Cowboys, while not completely inconsequential, is not going to be one of the most consequential games that they play. It's against an NFC opponent. It means it's going to have limited effect in the tiebreakers. Super early, you could recover from one loss super early, relatively easily. The game itself this week, while it is a big deal because it's on national TV and it's the first regular season game of the year, and it's one of 17, it's not like last year where the Browns opened up versus the division opponent where it was like, oh my goodness, it almost felt like a must win. But it's not one game that feels important this year. It's this year that feels important. This is the most important year, or one of the most important years, that this franchise has experienced since coming back in 1999. A lot hinges on the success of this year. A winning season, not just a winning season, a successful season, given what the parameters for the Cleveland Browns are this year, would be huge. Now, first, what is a success for this Browns team? I expect them to be Super Bowl contenders. I expect them to be taken seriously as Super Bowl contenders. I expect them to be a threat to get out the second round, to be a team that could get out the third round and get to the Super Bowl. I expect all of those things from this Cleveland Browns team if everything goes relatively okay. But even if they reach those goals, and let's say they even reach the highest goal, what does that success mean for the future? Because a winning season, a season that's successful for the Cleveland Browns, would make Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski relatively untouchable in the same way that John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin are untouchable. They're fixtures in Pittsburgh. It would put the Browns on the track to change the narrative on this whole Deshaun Watson trade permanently. Look, even though there are worse quarterback trades that exist, we've all talked about them, right? Trey Lance, 3 first-round picks, and I believe a second and a third for Trey Lance, and got nothing out of him. Russell Wilson, similar trade package, got nothing out of him. We know that Deshaun Watson is not technically the worst quarterback trade of all time, but the fact that we're even having a conversation means that we're not in a great place about that trade. And whether he's the worst quarterback trade of all time or the third worst quarterback trade in the last 10 years, it doesn't really matter. You don't want to be anywhere near that list. And if he has a great season this year, that narrative changes completely. It flips. If the Browns are a Super Bowl contender and Deshaun Watson's a top 10 quarterback, nobody is going to, all those videos about this being the worst quarterback trade or whatever, all that stuff will just fade into the background, be like it never existed. All those takes, be like it never existed. Because it wouldn't be a bad trade anymore, especially if you got years of sustained success that follow that from Deshaun Watson. The Browns could be one of those teams, one of those great teams with a great quarterback this year. And it's important to mention that the Browns have made a lot of strides organizationally since 2020. The Browns are known within NFL circles as a well-run organization for the first time since they come back. They are known within NFL circles as a well-coached organization. Within NFL circles, for the first time in a while, they're a well-respected NFL organization. And if you need proof of that, look at the names that are willing to associate with the Cleveland Browns that don't have to. Like Mike Vrabel being willing to just be a consultant and be heavily involved with training camp tells you how much progress the Cleveland Browns as a brand has made as far as respect within NFL circles. But here's the issue with all that progress. While all that progress is there, while the Browns are definitely seen in a different light than they were when they hired Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, all of this progress, all of this movement has not been codified. It's still fragile. It still can be lost. It's still, the possibility of going backwards is still there. One or two bad seasons could put you there. The way you codify progress in the NFL is with real success. And not to say that other levels of success aren't success, but when I say real success, I'm not saying you had a couple fun seasons where you went and won 10 plus games. I'm saying you were a real contender for a stretch of years. You were a fixture atop the NFL landscape. You were a champion potentially. That's how you become a fixture. That's how you're That is how your success becomes codified. It becomes law. It becomes immovable. It becomes the new status quo that is to be protected. You look at the division, you look at the teams that have that. Pittsburgh, well, how did they codify their success? Pretty early in Mike Tomlin's run, he won a Super Bowl. The Baltimore Ravens, how did they codify that success? Pretty early in John Harbaugh's run, he won a Super Bowl. Well, not pretty early, but early enough in his run. He won a Super Bowl. The same opportunity is here for Kevin Stefanski. He's made a lot of progress. We're talking about the Browns having problems that we have never been privileged enough to have. Will we cut enough draft picks? Can we keep all the draft picks? Can we extend all the young, talented players that we have on the roster? The Browns have had issues finding players in past years to extend. We've never had the issue where we had too many players that we can't extend. Like, that's something new that we did. All these problems, all these little complaints and things that we have here, they're still new. And while that's great that the Browns have progressed to the point to where their problems are significantly less dire or existential to the health of the season, it still does stand to say that all this could be lost easily, right? If Kevin and AB have a couple of bad, very disappointing years in a row, they could be on the hot seat, and everything that they built over the last 5 years could be done in like 2. And then you're back to doing the same old stuff. It's not like that in Baltimore or Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin would have to be forced out. And even if Mike Tomlin is fired, they have enough success, enough cachet with their reputation that it's not going to be hard for them to attract an attractive candidate and do the whole thing over again. Baltimore is a living example of that, right? They won the championship with Brian Billick. They got on with Brian Billick. They got back to Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh won a championship. Not Jim Harbaugh, John. You're able to have long-term sustained success when you codify it with real success. Like the Browns have still not done anything that forces people nationally to take them seriously. They should be if you're paying attention, but they have not had the success that would force those who aren't to pay attention, if that makes sense. This is what this year is about. This is what this year they have the opportunity to do. They can force themselves on. Look, the Bengals, before they got Joe Burrow, before they made the Super Bowl and the 2 conference championship games, there were prominent people in the media telling Joe Burrow he should avoid going to Cincinnati at all costs. Now, those of us familiar enough with Cincinnati knew that that was kind of silly. The Bengals have not been a bad organization. They've been quite well run, despite the fact that they have, issues with liquidity and cash that other teams don't have. They've been relatively well run in that time period. But nationally, it didn't matter. They associated the Bengals with bad. And people were saying that Joe Burrow should not go there. 2 conference championships games later, and it would be crazy for somebody to talk about the Bengals like that. Their success has been codified. That's what the Browns are looking for. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski have had 2 11-win seasons, which are by far the best that the Browns have had since 99. And with that, the Browns have left the since 99 era, right? Where every time the Browns did anything good, it would since 99 attached to it. They have successfully moved away with it. We have won the opener. We've won the opener on the road. We've won the home opener. We've won this, that. We got Defensive Player of the Year. We've got this award, that award. We've done all the stuff for that you would expect a regular team to accomplish. We've done all that stuff. Now since 99. We don't have to measure every bit of success that the Cleveland Browns have based on the since 99 bar anymore. Now it's time to get to the bar of codifying your own success, of having success that forces you on people's radar. And that's what this season is about. I'm a fan of the progress that the Cleveland Browns have made. Some aren't. Some of these people are Browns fans, haven't been blown away by the Browns' success because, again, it's not the undeniable variety of success. It's just very encouraging, but it's not undeniable. And some people, maybe they don't like the analytics. Maybe they don't like the sound of analytics. Maybe they don't like how Andrew Berry or Kevin Stefanski dress or something, like something about them they don't like. And because they don't like them, and they don't like that they get a lot of credit for the Browns' success, these fans don't enjoy the success as much because it's associated with them. And they know that if they have too much success, that these guys are going to be codified into Browns lore. They're going to be here for the next 20 years. And some people just don't want that to happen. Another thing that I want to tell fans going into this season, this is going to be a ride. This will not be easy, fun time. This is going to be nerve-wracking. Ups and downs are going to happen. Infighting within the fan base is absolutely guaranteed to happen. All of these things, by the way, right? The infighting, the ups and downs, the nerves, you're going to feel these things at a much higher intensity than you ever have because the stakes for this team are much higher than they've ever been. In some ways, I feel like some of the reaction to the preseason are Browns fans who are trying to lower the stakes for themselves so that they don't get caught up with all of this emotion. But it's inevitable. You're going to get caught up with this emotion. All of these things are going to happen at a high level with a high level of intensity. And sometimes it's going to be joy that you're going to feel at the highest level of intensity. You're going to feel that happiness at a higher rate than you've ever felt. Sometimes it's going to be pain. Sometimes it's going to be frustration. Sometimes it's going to be nerves. It's not going to be an easy ride. It's not going to be smooth. It's not going to be unemotional. It's going to be all those things. And when something's emotional, sometimes those emotions are good. Sometimes those emotions are bad. Sometimes those emotions are confusing. All of these things are going to happen. And it's important that they do. Understand it's not going to be an easy ride, but it could be the most worthwhile ride that the Cleveland Browns take us on since 99. That's all I got to say. Season starts now. Let's get into the coverage. Y'all have a great day. Have a better.